All right, Hotep, everybody. Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. It is Saturday, February 3rd, 2024, and we are live. So this is African American History Month, and I'll be teaching a online history class, our new 10-week online history class. I'll be teaching that in a few minutes as soon as we finish this broadcast. But I wanted to come on and talk about this topic here. And this is actually something that we discuss in the class. So a lot of people have heard that actor Denzel Washington is going to portray Carthaginian General Hannibal Barca in a new movie that's going to be on Netflix. Okay. And it is directed by Antoine Fuqua. Okay. Antoine Fuqua. Now we remember Denzel Washington and Antoine Fuqua teamed up for Training Day, okay? And Antoine Fuqua is an excellent director. Well, this the announcement of this film on Netflix has drawn criticism in Tunisia, which is North Africa, because you have North Africans saying that Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general, was not Black African. And we know that Denzel Washington is African American. Okay. Now, this also reminds us of the controversy surrounding Adele James playing Queen Cleopatra VII in African Queens, the series from Jada Pinkett Smith on Netflix. Okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what is in this article, what the controversy is, and then we're going to dispel this myth, because Hannibal Barca was Black African, even though in antiquity, and you know, Hannibal lives in 3rd century BC, and we know the Battle of Cannae is 219 BC. The Battle of Cannae is 216 BC. When he crossed the Alps with the elephants is 219 BC. And we know he's defeated at the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. Okay. However, he was Carthaginian, and the Carthaginians were descendants of the Phoenicians. Okay. So let me deal with this succinctly here, and I'll give you some information about our online class. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, because our online class starts today. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. All right. So Denzel Washington, and let me close out some of these ads here. Denzel Washington being cast in Antoine Fuqua's upcoming Netflix movie as ancient Carthaginian General Hannibal Barca, is sparking some controversy in Tunisia, the home country of the great military commander. Okay. Now it was Carthage at the time. Okay. That area was Carthage. According to French newspaper Courrier International, there are complaints about depicting the Carthaginian general as Black African. There are complaints about depicting the Carthaginian general as Black African being made in the media and the Tunisian parliament. Now, Member of Parliament Yassine Mami, M-A-M-I, not exactly sure how to pronounce that, has pointed out that Hannibal was born in 247 BC in Carthage, now known as Tunis, the Tunisian capital, and was of West Asian Semitic origin. Quote, there is a risk of falsifying history. We need to take position on this subject, end quote, the Tunisian politician reportedly stated. Okay. So this gets into ancient history. This gets into who was in that area at the time. This gets into understanding that the Carthaginians were descendants of the Phoenicians, who were Black African people, and the Phoenicians are descendants of the Garamantes, a larger group of Black African people there in North Africa, and the African Moors are descendants of the Garamantes as well. Concurrently, French language Tunisian newspaper La Presse has published an editorial in which it similarly objects that depicting Hannibal Barca as Black African is, quote, according to Tunisians and many observers, a historical error. Now, keep in mind that North Africa was largely conquered by Arabs. The Arabs invade Egypt in 639 AD, conquer in 642 AD, or Common Era, okay, and go throughout North Africa. All right. Yes, you do have some Black Africans, descendants of those ancient Africans that are still there, but they're in the minority. And we know in Egypt, they've been pushed further south, especially into Sudan, which in ancient times was Nubia, okay, or Ta-Nehesi. However, Tunisian culture minister Hayat Ketat Guermazi had a different, more pragmatic take on the matter. He said, he told the French newspaper Le Monde, it's fiction, it's their Netflix right, it's their right to do what they want, referring to Netflix. She said, Hannibal is a historical figure, and we are all proud that he was Tunisian, but what can we do? She went on to note that she is trying to negotiate with Netflix to shoot at least a portion of the film in Tunisia. Quote, I hope they decide to shoot at least a sequence of the film here, and that this is publicized. We want Tunisia to go back to being a location where foreign films are shot. She said, as reported by Le Monde newspaper. Okay, now, representatives for Netflix, Denzel Washington and Antoine Fuqua, did not immediately reply to a request for comment. Now, this controversy in Tunisia over Denzel Washington playing Hannibal is reminiscent, as I said at the beginning, of the uproar in Egypt, and let's be frank, anti-Black backlash from Arabs in Egypt over Adele James portraying Queen Cleopatra VII. And they weren't saying Queen Cleopatra VII was Black. They were saying that she was not white. They were saying she looked more like Adele James, who is biracial, than she did Cleopatra. I mean, then she did Elizabeth Taylor, who portrayed Cleopatra VII as well. Okay. Now, the still untitled film about the Carthaginian general Hannibal Barca will be written by John Logan, the three-time Academy Award winner who scribed Martin Scorsese's The Aviator and Ridley Scott's Gladiator. According to the original logline, the movie is based on real-life warrior Hannibal Barca, who became Carthaginian general at 26 years old. He is widely regarded as one of the greatest military commanders in history. The film covers the pivotal battles he led against the Roman Republic during the Second Punic War. And we deal with the Punic Wars in my online class, online history class also. And we also talk about the Battle of Cannae 216 BC, when Hannibal has an army of 50,000 people made up of largely of barbarians who defeat the Roman army, and Rome has about 80,000 soldiers. Okay, that's the Battle of Cannae 216 BC. Hannibal invaded Italy while riding a northern African war elephant. Okay, and you read about Hannibal crossing the Alps. That's in 219 BC. Under his lead, the Carthaginians won key victories against the Romans, allowing Hannibal to occupy the majority of southern Italy for 15 years. Eventually, Hannibal was defeated by the Romans at the Battle of Zama, Z-A-M-A, after they counter-invaded North Africa. Okay, and that's the Battle of Zama in 202 BC. It's going to be after the Battle of Zama that Publius Cornelius Scipio takes the surname Africanus after the area that he's conquered. Okay, Africa was not named after a Roman general. Okay, Africanus means belonging to Africa. People have this totally backwards, and we break this down in my class and provide you with the evidence as well. So what I want to do quickly here is I want to look at some information that I teach on dealing with Hannibal Barca. Okay. And these are actual slides from my class, but we deal with this myth, and we deal with distortions of Hannibal's depiction. And we show that Hannibal was Black African. Okay. Now there was a series also from the History Channel called Barbarians Rising, came out about 2015. And in that series, it depicted Hannibal Barca as Black African also. Okay. Let's see here. Let me go to, all right. Yeah, I want to take that down. Also, I meant to show you all my t-shirt. I know some people are asking. Okay. Blacks in science, Black scientists and inventors. Okay. So, I always have some interesting t-shirts. All right, so let's look at this here. All right, now, Carthage was founded in 813 BCE, before the Common Era. Carthage exists from 813 BCE to 146 BCE or BC. And Carthage is destroyed by the Romans. Okay, so when you read about the Punic Wars, that deals with the wars between Carthage and Rome. Now, let's see here. Let's back up for a minute. Okay. Now, Carthage was founded in the 9th century BCE on the Gulf of Tunis. From the 6th century onwards, it developed into a great trading empire covering much of the Mediterranean and was home to a brilliant civilization. In the course of the long Punic Wars, Carthage occupied some of Rome's territories before finally being destroyed by its rival in 146 BCE. If you watch the fantastic documentary about Dr. John Henrik Clarke, a great Grandmaster Scholar Warrior, Dr. John Henrik Clarke, he talks about Hannibal Barca. He talks about the Romans, okay, the Carthaginians as well, okay. All right, here, hold on just a second. He talks about the Carthaginians as well, and the effort by Rome to destroy the Carthaginians. Okay, let's continue here. All right, now in his book, World's Great Men of Color, Volume 1, history scholar Joel Augustus Rogers, J.A. Rogers, asserts the Carthaginians were descendants of the Phoenicians, a Negroid people, and that, in fact, until the rise of the doctrine of white superiority, Hannibal Barca was traditionally known as a Black man. Until the rise of white supremacy and white superiority that we see taking place as Europe is moving out of the Dark Ages, going into the Renaissance era. So the 1300s, 1400s, and then we see exploration in the 1400s. As they're moving out of the Dark Ages into the Renaissance era, and it's going to be the teachings from the African Moors that bring Europe out of the Dark Ages, the teachings coming from the Nile Valley region of Africa that the African Moors take into Europe beginning in 711 AD. We're going to see as Europe becomes powerful, starts conquering people's lands, enslaving people, extracting mineral wealth, gold and silver from people's lands, setting up plantations, sugarcane plantations especially. We're going to see a rise in the European phenotype, and we're going to see a reinterpretation of historical or mythological figures that were depicted historically as African. Okay, so Michelangelo paints the Sistine Chapel and uses his aunt and uncle as the images of Adam and Eve and paints God as white. We see Hannibal Barca reinterpreted as European. We see Zeus, who was the king of the gods, and in the mythology, in Greek mythology, tells you Zeus came from Ethiopia. These were Black Africans, but Zeus gets reinterpreted as European. Okay. We see Hercules, who was black. Okay. Coming from Greek mythology, Hercules reinterpreted as European. We see the Black Madonna and Child, okay, who comes from Osset, okay, Isis. We see her get reinterpreted as European. Okay, so as we have a rise in the dominance of the European phenotype and as Europeans come into power, as Europe moves from the Dark Ages into the Renaissance era, we see a rise in the European phenotype. And we're still suffering from the side effects of that rise of the European phenotype today. This is why, as African people around the world, including African Americans, we have to take our minds back. We have to take our minds back. And Black History Month can serve as the catalyst for that process of taking our minds back. Black History Month created by in 1926 by Dr. Carthage Woodson, who co-founded the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History, September 9th, 1915 in Chicago, Illinois. Now, today, many encyclopedias classify the Carthaginians as whites or Semites. Okay? Today, many encyclopedias classify the Carthaginians as whites or Semites. But ancient Greek and Roman eyewitness accounts paint a different picture. The indigenous people of Carthage were called the Afeers. The indigenous people of Carthage were called the Afeers, A-F-E-R-S. Ancient Roman poet Virgil, in his poem Mortem, M-O-R-E-T-U-M, speaks of a woman from the Afeer or Afar, A-F-A-R, also known as the Afra race, A-F-R-A. He says of this woman, Virgil says of this woman, and all her figure proves her native land. Her hair was curly, thick her lips, and dark her color. Okay, and all her figure proves her native land. Her hair was curly, thick her lips, and dark her color. Now, in Library of History book 20, XX, Roman numeral 20, XX, Greek historian Diodorus mentions a Greek lieutenant named Agathocles, who defeated a people in the area of present-day Tunisia, who were the same hue as Ethiopians. Now, are you talking about white Ethiopians? No, they're talking about Black African people. Okay? This is how, when Europeans come out of the Dark Ages, they reinterpret history through a European cultural paradigm. And that's putting it politely, because a lot of the stuff they just lied about. Okay, stealing people's lands and then lying about who was there. But colonizing, Dr. John Henry Clark talks about how, Europeans colonized history, Europeans colonized imagery, but also they colonized the image of God. And when you study, when the Moors go in 711 AD, the Black Madonna and Child, the statues, the figure, the worship of the Black Madonna and Child is all throughout Europe. The European country, according to Runoko Rashidi, in the book Black Star: The African Presence in Early Europe, this book right here, and this is one of the books we use in the class. France probably has the most depictions of the Black Madonna and Child, with approximately 300. Okay, France has approximately 300. That's page 51 of Black Star: The African Presence in Early Europe. And if we look here quickly, you see on pages 90 and 91, you see depictions, statues, paintings of the Black Madonna and Child that are still in Europe today. Okay, but they've got us worshiping Europeans when Europeans used to worship African people. I'll be damned. See, this is the type of information that needs to be incorporated into every Black History Month celebration, especially in the churches. This is probably why I don't get asked to speak at a lot of Black History Month celebrations, because I don't do okie doke slave Black History Month celebration speeches, and I don't teach history to make white people feel comfortable with the oppression of African people. I don't do that. Now, I don't teach it with the intent of making white people feel guilty either. I just deal with the history. But we don't do no Negro We Shall Overcome Black History Month celebrations. That's disrespectful to Dr. Carter G. Woodson and the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. We don't do stuff like that. Okay. All right. Now, okay, let's continue, because I got to teach this class. Now, if you like this type of information, how's everybody doing? I'm Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. You see me on Roland Martin Unfiltered every Friday. You see some of my broadcasts. You see my reels on Instagram and all that, okay? We have the introduction to our class starting up here in a few minutes at my online school. You can register for that. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, and we also have the information right here in the thread of the broadcast. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay, this is a new 10-week online history course that I teach. We're going to do an introduction today as soon as I finish here. And we deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. Okay, and this is over 200 slides that I put together. We have 80 to 100 articles that we reference. We have excerpts of interviews that I've done with many of our scholars over the years also that hits on different aspects of this history. Okay, we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. Okay, and just at our website, just click here, register here. In the class, I'll go over the lesson plan, because I have a lesson plan laid out for all 10 classes, and we'll send you the lesson plan in the so you can download it also. I'm trying to get the link straight on the website so you can actually look at the lesson plan there. But this is my life's work. I started teaching this class in 2007. It's taken 7 years to get the class, really develop it to where it is today. 80 to 100 articles, 15 books that we reference. You don't have to buy any of these books to follow along in class. Classes on sale $80, regularly $130. And we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. So even after the course is over with, you can go back and watch the entire course. Okay. So you don't lose access to it. I don't want to do that. I want you to be able to 2-3 years from now, be able to still access this class. And this is at our online school. Okay. All right. Now, let's continue here. The eyewitness accounts are corroborated by eyewitness accounts of the Ethiopians, Tunisians having the same hue, complexion as Ethiopians, Black Africans. The eyewitness accounts are corroborated by physical anthropology. L. Berthelon and E. Chantre, both well-noted French anthropologists, documented their examination of skeletons throughout North Africa in all periods. They noted that the remains of both upper and lower class individuals of ancient North Africa were representative of the Negroid race. They're saying these were Black Africans. Okay, these weren't brown Caucasians. Okay, these weren't light-skinned Arabs. These weren't dark-skinned Europeans. These were Black African people. And there's a huge effort and a continuing effort to distort this history so you can reduce African people to just slavery and being conquered. They don't want to show, and even in media, in the movies, they do not want to show African people ruling the world. Why? Because whatever's disseminated becomes imitated. That's why Megan Thee Stallion is promoted to us. That's why Lil Wayne is promoted to us. That's why Sexy Red is promoted to us. That's why ignorance is promoted to us. Whatever is disseminated becomes imitated. Okay? So we have to understand this. Bantu Stephen Biko, one of our great South African freedom fighters, said the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. We must take our minds back. All right, now, okay, let's continue here. How you all like this type of information? Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Now, here is an ancient coin, front and back, thought to depict Hannibal Barca of Carthage, okay? And this comes from an article, and some of this information comes from an article from AtlantaBlackStar.com, June 26, 2014, 5 ancient African empires besides Egypt that Europeans and Arabs tried to claim as their own. 5 ancient African empires besides Egypt that Europeans and Arabs tried to claim as their own. Okay, now, so the fight continues. We go from Denzel Washington going to portray Hannibal Barca, the Carthaginian general, in a new movie on Netflix from director Antoine Fuqua. Okay, Antoine Fuqua. We go from that to backlash from Tunisia. And if we go back to 2023, we see, and this article is from December 11, 2023, Denzel Washington's casting as ancient General Hannibal in Antoine Fuqua Netflix film sparks controversy in Tunisia, in North Africa. We saw Jada Pinkett Smith got backlash, okay, not for Will slapping Chris Rock, but backlash for depicting, putting forth the notion, one, that Queen Cleopatra VII was biracial or mixed race, which most likely she was. Okay, and she looked more like Adele James, most likely, and Adele James is biracial. She looked more like Adele James than she did Elizabeth Taylor. Okay, and we've done extensive broadcasts dealing with the series from Jada Pinkett Smith here on the African History Network. Okay, so check out the interview I did with Dr. Malefe Kete Asante, Anthony Browder, as well as the interview that I did with Dr. Charles Finch. Okay, all right, now, this is Pinnock, Nicholas Pinnock, okay? And in 2016, I think it was, the History Channel had a series called Barbarians Rising, and it dealt with 700 years of invasions, okay, of the Roman Empire, and it leads up to the fall of the Roman Empire in 476 AD, Common Era, okay, when the western portion of the Roman Empire is conquered by the Vandals and the Visigoths. All right. Now, hold on. Conquered by the Vandals and the Visigoths. Okay. So the first installment dealt with Hannibal Barca, and they talk about the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC, and Black British actor Nicholas Pinnock portrayed Hannibal Barca. Okay. And he did an excellent job. And he looked more like Hannibal Barca than whatever white actor or Arab looking actor they're going to get, because Hannibal was Black African. Okay. The famous Carthaginian was a thorn in the empire's side. He became a general at the age of 26 and managed to unite barbarian tribes to stop Rome's imperial rise. The military genius was famous for climbing the Alps with war elephants, whose sole purpose was to stomp the Roman Empire, Hannibal ultimately wanted to invade Rome, but he failed to do so. There have been debates over the race of Hannibal. This debate still continues to this day. So there was a good article from AtlantaBlackStar.com called History Channel Portrays Hannibal as Black. White people cry foul over quote unquote historical revisionism. This article is from June 7th, 2016. Okay. And in 219 BC, Hannibal of Carthage led an attack on Saguntum, an independent city allied with Rome, which sparked the outbreak of the Second Punic War. Okay. Hannibal then marched his massive army across the Pyrenees and Alps into central Italy in what would be remembered as one of the most famous campaigns in history. After a string of victories, the most notable coming at Cannae in 216 BC. The Roman army loses about 50,000 soldiers at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC. It's looked at as one of the greatest military victories in history. So there's a concerted effort, right, to see they don't have a problem. White Hollywood, the white power structure, they don't have a problem with trying to rewrite the history of black buffoonery and have Europeans depicted in roles that originally went to black buffoons. They don't have a problem with that. Step and Fetch It, Amos and Andy. Even though Amos and Andy, when there was a radio show, was created by two Jewish men, Freeman Gosling and Charles Correll, two white men, Freeman Gosling and Charles Correll. They oftentimes perform the radio show in blackface. But then when it goes to television, then they had to have African-American actors. So if you ever heard of the Amos and Andy radio show that started in the 1920s, that comes from the minstrel shows were created by T.D. Rice, Thomas Dartmouth Rice, about 1828, 1829, who's known as the father of minstrelsy. Okay. And is okay. So I'm gonna have to slow down because I got to teach this class and see all this. We get into all this. This is a 10-week online course, but let me just show you something here. Let me just show you this right quick. This is T.D. Rice. So this is why the minstrel shows were so damaging, because it created the stereotypes of the coon and the mammy and Jim Crow. Okay, coming from the song "Turn Around, Jump Around, I Jump Just So." Every time I turn around, I jump Jim Crow. Right. If we look here at this slide here, this is T.D. Rice, Thomas Dartmouth Rice, in a sketch portraying the Jim Crow character that he created. He was known as a Ethiopian delineator, and he performed in tattered torn clothing, put on blackface, developed a Southern dialect to imitate African slaves, and he performed this on stage. It became so popular that other white men did the same thing, and then they started creating minstrel show. They created minstrel show companies, and they toured throughout the U.S. and toured throughout Europe, projecting these negative stereotypical images of African people during slavery, but then also after slavery. Okay. And one of the most diabolical, one of the most destructive movies in history was the movie The Birth of a Nation, that debuted February 8th, 1915. And all the negative stereotypical images of African people was shown in this movie, The Birth of a Nation. Okay. And most of the images of African Americans were white people in blackface. So this is why you see me go after negative images of African people in media today, because I understand this history. I've been studying history 33 years. I'm a historian. I know the weaponization of imagery and media. This is not entertainment. This is programming. This is not entertainment. This is programming. Race riots broke out in the street because of the movie The Birth of a Nation. The Ku Klux Klan was rejuvenated because of the movie The Birth of a Nation, because the Ku Klux Klan were the heroes of the movie. Okay, long story short, the movie takes place during slavery in Piedmont, South Carolina. During slavery, the Civil War, 1861, 1865, and the Jim Crow and the Reconstruction era, 1865, 1877. You can watch the entire 3-hour movie on YouTube. It's a silent movie. There's a scene that depicts a black man raping a white virgin in the movie The Birth of a Nation. This movie caused race riots in the streets. And what's interesting is we had enough sense to protest against that movie, lead protests in Boston, lead protests in California when the movie came out. Today, we don't have enough sense to protest negative corporate controlled hip hop that puts forth some of the same negative, stereotypical, dehumanizing images. We had more sense back then. Okay, let's see here. How's everybody doing? All right. So let me wrap it up. I'm going to wrap it up here. How do you like this type of information? Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. You can, because I'm ready to jump off and go to our online school and teach this class. But visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. You can register for this 12-week online history class that I teach, Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt. the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. Okay. And before I go, I got to show you this quickly. So, because I hear so many people putting out this misinformation saying that Africa is named after a Roman general, Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus. That's false. It's the other way around. It's the other way around. Publius Cornelius Scipio Africanus fought in the Second Punic War. He dies in 183 BC, okay, which is also the same year that Hannibal Barca dies, all right? Now, I consulted Cassell's Latin and English Dictionary. I was doing a presentation for African Liberation Day here in Detroit back around 2012, 2013, something like that. And this was one of my topics. Africa was not named after a Roman general named Publius Cornelius Scipio, okay? Cassell's Latin and English Dictionary 2002 edition, page 11, the entry for a fear, it tells you that Africa, it tells you that the word Africanus means African or belonging to Africa, as a surname conferred upon two of the Scipios. Okay, now, so his last name was Scipio. Is after the battle of Zama in 202 BC that he takes the surname Africanus, meaning belonging to Africa. The prefix Afri is in reference to a people called the Afri who lived in Algeria and Tunisia, a Black African people. So we reference pages 14 and 15 of African People in World History by Dr. John Henrik Clarke. And it says here, the Nile Valley's first age of high cultural grandeur lasted until the eve of the Christian era. Some aspects of it survived the Greek and Roman occupation of parts of North Africa. After this rise and decline of Greek civilization and the Roman destruction of the city of Carthage, Carthage is destroyed in 183 BC, the Romans organized the conquered territories into a province they called Africa. Okay, after the Romans, after the rise and decline of Greek civilization and the Roman destruction of the city of Carthage, the Romans organized the conquered territories into a province they called Africa. A word derived from Afri, A-F-R-I, the name of a group of people about whom little is known. This was a new name because previously all dark-skinned people were called Ethiopians, since the Greeks referred to Africa as Ethiopia, which in Ethiopia means the land of the burnt-faced people. Okay, so Ethiopia originally was Abyssinia. Okay, so Ethiopia is a Greek word. All right, so but the Afri were a group of Black African people in Algeria and Tunisia. Tunisia used to be called Carthage. The Carthaginians are descendants of the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians are descendants of a larger group of people called the Garamantes, who also the African Moors were descendants of as well. Okay, so no, Africa was not named after Publius Cornelius Scipio. It's the other way around. He took his surname Africanus after he defeats Carthage in the Battle of Zama and defeats Hannibal Barca 202 BC in the Battle of Zama, Z-A-M-A. And if you read the article from history.com called Hannibal, in that article, it tells you that he took his surname after the Battle of Zama. So can we please, okay, stop this simple Simon nonsense, just putting forth BS with no research. Haven't done any research on it. Just throwing out nonsense, okay? All right. Also, if you like this type of information, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. So go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, scroll down, And we have the information here for the Cash App, PayPal. When you click on that, this is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it says Michael. These other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. I'm still trying to get shut down because people have been stealing money from us. Okay. These are not ours. They're using our logo, all that stuff. I put the link here. You click on the link and it has our QR code here as well. Okay. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, so you can register for this full 12-week online history course. And I'm getting ready to, as soon as I finish this broadcast, we're going to jump in the class in my online school and start teaching class number 1. So these classes will be on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're running a little behind schedule today, so I had to get everything set up. But go to our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, scroll down the page. You'll see the second class that I teach, Black Resistance Movements, Christopher Columbus, the Haitian Revolution, and Black Power Movement, 1492 to 1968. We do that on Sundays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So click right here to register for the second course. You can register for the course bundle for both classes on sale for $120. Click right here to register for the course bundle. This content is PG-13, so you can use this with your children also. I don't do a lot of cursing. It's nothing like that. It's a very visual class. So we have 200 slides in the PowerPoint presentation, video clips that we look at, book references, 80 to 100 articles. And then, we have class number 1 of Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa. Understand the transatlantic slave trade. Click right here to register for that. And the class lesson plan is here for the full course. You can download the class lesson plan. Okay, so there's a ton of information that we cover in this class. I'm just giving you a brief overview. Okay, so have you all learned anything so far? How do you all like this type of information? And who still needs to register for this class? So when we scroll down, we look at some of the other content that we'll cover. We'll look at archaeological discoveries that keep causing the scientists and archaeologists and paleontologists to push the timelines back. And these are archaeological discoveries that show an African presence in parts of the world earlier than people thought. Okay. So there was one good article, Recap Humans Are 100,000 Years Older Than We Thought. This is from the New York Post. We'll look at the lost city. There were 2 lost cities of Egypt. One, dazzling Aten, which was discovered a few years ago, but then also Tanis Heraklion, which was discovered about 2013.